Maryland football needs the bye in the worst way possible.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you will get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Maryland Terrapins need a bye week this week in the worst possible way. I think the bye actually came at a perfect time. Sometimes you can get unlucky as a football program. Sometimes the bye can come when you don't really need it. The bye can come when you got a lot of momentum, when things are going really well, and it's not a spot where you want the bye. But this isn't the case for the Terps. The Terps have the bye in the exact right spot for this season. They need to regroup. They need to make some changes, and this bye is in an awesome spot for the Terps. I think there's so many different reasons for it. I think that for one thing, we've got to get a little bit healthier. We've definitely experienced a little bit of the injury bug, nothing crazy so far, but Tai Felton was banged up at the end of the game. Caden Prather was banged up in the end of the game. I know there's a bunch of other guys on our team who are trying to get back to healthy fully, and this seems like the perfect week to get healthy after that kind of hard loss to Indiana, where we put in a lot of effort in that game to stay in that game. And we were throwing punches back with Indiana for a while, but we couldn't keep up with them. And I think it's time for us to regroup after that game and change some things around and change some things up after losing by 14 to Indiana, while also forcing 4 turnovers. That's how I kind of know it was time for the bye. When you force 4 turnovers and you still lose the game by 14 points and you win the turnover battle 4-0, it's time to reset. It's time to start things over. It's time for a bye. And the Maryland Terrapins clearly needed that right now. And I think that when you look at us 0-2 in Big Ten play, and we haven't played one of the powerhouses on our schedule. It's not like we went to Penn State yet. It's not like we had to go to Eugene and go to Oregon yet. We haven't played USC at home yet, and we're 0-2 already in Big Ten play. That's already setting up for us for things to go downhill quickly. So I think it's really important for us to have this bye right now, because 0-2 in Big Ten play, 3-2 overall. 3-2 might sound like, you might look at that and be like, that's a winning record, but this isn't the NFL. 3-2 in the NFL, okay, you're feeling good about yourself pretty much no matter who you've played. You're feeling pretty good that 5 games in, you're 3-2. College football, if your schedule started off the way the Terrapins did, you're not feeling good about 3-2. You're feeling like, wow, we got a lot of things to work on. There's a lot of things that we're going to have to clean up, because right now, it's not good enough. It's not good enough for the Terps. And that's a big reason why I think the bye is needed, is because it's not going well enough. There's so many different components to this team. I can't name one component and say that part of our football team is playing at a really high level, and we want them to continue to play like that, and we want them to play exactly how they are. I can't really say that. Maybe you could say that about the receiver room, maybe the linebacker room, maybe, but even those 2 rooms, you say we could use a bye for the health of our receivers, for the health of Tai Felton and Caden Prather, because right now that's a humongous part of our offense. Probably our 2 best weapons right now is those 2 guys on the outside, and we didn't want them to be nicked up this week and have to play a game with maybe Tai Felton a little bit hurt or Caden Prather a little bit hurt, or them out. So I think having a bye week for those guys is extremely important. And then you look at every other spot of our football team and you say, that part of our football team hasn't been good enough, and they clearly need to make changes. They need to get into the film room. They need some type of mental break, and I think it'll really help them, the fact that they have this bye week, and it's a chance for them to reset, to do things differently, to look at things differently. Look at our offensive line last week against Indiana. there's been different opinions on it. Some people say it wasn't really that bad. Some people say it looked horrific. A lot of it people think was because Billy Edwards was just holding on to the ball too long. But all I know is the offensive line needs work. The offensive line needs to mesh a little bit better, and that there's plenty of improvements that can be made up there in this bye week. Also, I know some guys are nicked up a little bit, so we need to get back to healthy heading into a Northwestern game. And same thing goes with a lot of the other rooms. Defensive line unit hasn't been that good. We haven't gotten a lot of production out of our defensive line unit. Nowhere near what I thought we would get. I thought it would look a lot better. I thought we would be a strength of our team. And right now it's just been kind of It's not great. It's not good. It's not bad. But it's just okay. But that's not good enough for our defensive line, where I think they need a bye to figure some things out. Do we need to blitz more? Do we need to send some special pressures? Do we need to do things differently to get to the quarterback? Because to me, the Indiana quarterback had a little bit too much time. And some of the guys that we've played so far this year, a lot of these guys are getting comfortable back there in the pocket. I don't like the pass rush. We do a decent job of stopping the run, nothing special, but I think we got to improve up there. And you know what I'm about to say needs to improve the most. I said it every single day. The position group that needs the bye week the most is that corner room. They need that bye week. I know people are arguing, well, the defense forced 4 turnovers against Indiana. Yeah, that is true a lot of the case, but I'm still seeing a huge problem in that secondary getting absolutely diced up. It's just too easy right now for quarterbacks. And even Northwestern doesn't have the most powerhouse offense ever, but they could easily get things going with how our corner room is going right now. And I'm not one to sit here and tell you guys the exact changes we need to make, whether it's personnel changes, whether maybe Braden Lee needs more snaps instead of somebody. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe you just need to depend on the older guys. Maybe it's more scheme thing. Maybe they just need to get their confidence back. Maybe those guys aren't fully healthy. I don't know. But I know that a bye week can really help you solve problems like that. And I'm trusting that Coach Williams and that defensive staff can get that secondary right, because it hasn't looked good at all. And I think that we also need a little bit of more stuff on offense going for us. Find a way this bye week to put in some Billy Edwards-centric run game stuff. I think that can help the Terps a lot. All I know is that we're 0-2 in Big Ten play. We're 3-2 overall. The season could quickly go down the drain, and I think that this bye week could allow it not to. So regroup. I'm sure they're going to get some rest time, which is extremely important. You don't have to travel this weekend. You're there. Watch film. Get mentally sharp. Whatever you need to do. But I think the bye week is extremely important for them to recover, to get back to where they need to be, and to regroup a little bit. I think that's something that we got to say, we got to talk about, because right now things are just going downhill. Things aren't going well. I knew we were able to beat Virginia, but that's the only real quality win that we have on our schedule right now. Outside of that, we don't really have much. And we're headed into a game next week against Northwestern, a game that's absolutely winnable for sure. And I think it's good that we have our bye week before this, because we have to win that game. If we don't win that game, I don't know what's going to happen. We might lose some recruits. Some different things might happen, but you have to beat that Northwestern team. And I think that a bye week before this Northwestern game is extremely important to make sure that we can win that game, to make sure that we can execute that day. Because I'm telling you, if we lose to Northwestern, people are going to start to question us. And it's a Friday night game as well, which my light just fell. I apologize for that. The light just fell. I'm sure you guys saw that. But back to the Northwestern game, it's a game that you have to win, a game that is extremely important to win. And if you don't win that game, things could really look badly. And this game, I think we do have an advantage. Coming off the bye week and playing on a Friday night, I think is important for the Maryland Terrapins when you're able to get a game on a Friday after bye week. So Northwestern actually has a shorter week where they have to turn around and play us sooner than they probably want to after they play Indiana tomorrow in a big game where I'm going to be looking at to see how Northwestern looks. So I think this bye week comes at the perfect time for the Maryland Terrapins. Let's shift gears to basketball a little bit. Maryland basketball is ranked way too low in the preseason Big Ten poll. I'll talk about that after this ad from FanDuel. Hey NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place the first $5 bet. You can also bet on some college football games this Friday. There's some good games today. If you want to bet on Michigan State versus Oregon, that's a big game that you can bet on. There's a couple more on the college football slate, so make sure you guys go over and do that on FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. So I was looking at the preseason men's basketball Big Ten poll because we just had media day for Maryland basketball. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm really excited about this Maryland basketball team. Extremely excited. I think it's a special team that has a chance to do some special stuff. And I think that people don't know how good this team is. And let me start by saying this. The Big Ten poll, I think we're too low. I do. But I also understand why we aren't the highest, because I think that we're a team that's going to fly under the radar. But I still think we're too low because I think people don't know and don't realize how good this team is that Kevin Willard has built. I think it's a special team. I think it's deep. I think it's got everything we need. I think there's a ton of talent. I think we got things going for us this year that we haven't in the past, especially last year. And I think that it's a complete type of team. Obviously, it's going to depend on a couple players making a couple jumps and different things like that. But I really do like this team. And so preseason Purdue's #1, which I know they have the returning preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, not Zach Edey. Zach Edey's in the NBA now, but and Braden Smith, and he's a good player and all, but I don't know if he's preseason Big Ten Player of the Year worthy. He's been really good, but is he really the best player in our conference? I guess we'll see. I mean, I understand why Purdue's there. They've got some really good players. They had a good year last year. Indiana's 2, UCLA's 3. UCLA got a ton of really good transfers. Illinois and Michigan State are up there. But I think we're right there with all these programs. Michigan's at 9. I think we might be better than Michigan. Rutgers at 7. Rutgers at 7 is interesting. I think a lot of people are buying stock into the Rutgers freshmen. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, rightfully so. Those kids are going to be really good players at the college level and the NBA players. But I still think that it might be a little too much stock into those guys because I'm one to believe that college basketball isn't about having star-studded freshmen. And we've seen that over the last couple of years. That's not what college basketball is about. That might be a big reason why people watch it. That's why a lot of people are invested in it. They want to see the next stars, and there's plenty of those. Rutgers got 2 of those guys, and, of course, Duke got maybe the biggest one, the biggest one in Cooper Flagg. Rutgers got the next 2. Maryland, of course, we've got Derek Queen, who's a special type of talent, who I think is going to have a chance to win Big Ten Player of the Year. The kid at Rutgers got picked to win preseason, Dylan Harper, but we'll see how that goes down. But I think that a lot of people, I think we can be in front of Rutgers. I think we have a more veteran type of team, guys that have done it. And I think a lot of people are looking at them and they say, those 2 freshmen are going to be a problem in the Big Ten. And they might be right, but usually Big Ten basketball, it's hard to adjust to for some of these young guys. Look at last year. Deshaun Harris-Smith was a first-team all-conference freshman, and he honestly didn't have a great year just because there was not that many freshmen to choose from. There wasn't a ton of guys, and I think we could easily be ahead of Rutgers. I'm going to go ahead and say that now. Maryland basketball will be better than Rutgers basketball, and Rutgers comes in at 7th, where I think Maryland should be around. I think Maryland should be around 7. I think we're going to be better than Michigan. I think we're going to be better than Ohio State. I think we're going to be right next to the Michigan State, Oregon, Illinois territory. I really do think we're going to be that good. I think that we have a really solid pieces, and I think that when you look at it and you say, how is Maryland different from last year? We're so much different, completely different team. Besides a couple guys, that were on last year's team that are going to play, this team is completely different for the Maryland Terrapins. So I think that we're constructed the right way this year. And I think starting up front in our front court, I think that is where our money's going to be made. And I think that's where they're going to look at us and say, that team's really good in the front court. That team might have the best front court in the Big Ten. Their queen, I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to be a different segment for another day. He's going to win Big Ten Freshman of the Year. I'm telling you now, forget those guys at Rutgers, forget Ace Bailey, forget Dylan Harper, forget whoever else is in the Big Ten that's coming in. Their queen's the most college basketball ready. He has the most college basketball game. They might be better at the next level in the NBA, especially Ace Bailey. It's a really high ceiling. But as a pure college basketball player, I think Derek Queen is going to be the best. And then Julian Reese, one of the best returning bigs in the Big Ten. Like right there, you already have a 1-2 punch that is amongst the best in the Big Ten. Then we have one of the best guards in the Big Ten, in Jacoby Gillespie. A lot of people just don't know about it because he was a transfer. And then we also picked up Selton Miguel. Kevin Willard was just talking about how he is another guy that can create his own shot. He's a shooter. And if Deshaun Harris-Smith improves this year and Rodney Rice comes in, we had a lot of really good talent. Jordan Geronimo is now coming off the bench instead of having to be a starter. I think the Terps have something special brewing this year, and I don't think a lot of people realize it. And I think the 10th ranked team in the Big Ten isn't like a horrible spot for them, but I do think it's too low. You have to remember, there are more teams now, so there's 18 teams in the Big Ten. At the bottom is Minnesota, Penn State, Northwestern, and Washington. USC's down there as well. And so Maryland's middle of the pack right now, like pretty much right in the middle of the pack. But I do think they're going to be better than that this year. And I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, and a lot of people aren't going to see the Terps coming and see that the Terps are going to be a really high-level basketball team. I just think, for one, we're better constructed. We're going to be way less reliant on one player. I think we're going to be really good defensively again. KenPom had us as a top-rated defense last year, and I think we're going to be similar to that next year. But I think offensively, we're going to be so much better. We lose Jameer Young, but we just are so much more balanced this year. And I don't think we have to just rely on one player to get a shot. I think we're way more well-versed in so many different areas. So I do think that the Terps are going to be a lot better. And I think we're going to be a top 7-8 team in the Big Ten, not too far away from 10, but I'm expecting us to be a top 7-ish team in the Big Ten. And I'm telling you now, we're going to be better than the Rutgers. Telling you guys now, we're going to be better than them. I know there's a lot of hype, Rutgers basketball, but we're going to be better than Rutgers. And I think we're going to be somewhere in that upper middle range with a chance to be even better than that. Like the sky is the limit for us. I was like trying to think of the quote, but I think we have a chance to be a really good team. How does Tai Felton win the Biletnikoff? I'll tell you about that after this ad from the Gametime app. Have you ever wanted to go to a game at the last minute like a Maryland Terrapins game, but finding tickets is hard? I've been there before. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing on the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of an event and even an hour after it starts. It's a place to find last-minute seats and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So I think that Maryland's Tai Felton winning the Biletnikoff for Tai is going to be really hard. But how does it have to happen for the Terps wide receiver. So I think there's a couple different ways how Ty can really enter his name into this Biletnikoff thing, and he just got added to the watch list. So it's kind of feels like a more like a really sturdy thing that has a chance at happening. It's a low chance for a couple of different reasons. One, it's because we're at Maryland, so it's hard to win an award like that out of Maryland. When you want to win like best receiver, the Biletnikoff Award, some of these other things, a lot of it's going to have to do with how good your team is. Like I know in the past, the last year's candidates, who was it? Like Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Roma Dunze, were those the candidates last year? Like all those teams were pretty dang good. Like LSU was pretty good. Of course, Ohio State was pretty good. Washington made it to the national championship. Like part of it's a team award. And so for you to kind of have to enter your name in there, I think the one way Tai Felton has to be able to do that is for Maryland to be winning games. That might be not an easy thing to do in terms of beating some of the big dogs. I'm not saying we got to go beat Oregon on the road, but I'm saying like it's got to be a close game, or you got to make a game against Penn State. You might have to upset USC. And while you're doing something like that, Tai Felton has to go and have a crazy game if you win one of those types of games. So it's definitely not an easy thing to do, but I think Coach Loxley said it best. For us to win an award like that, the best chance is for us to have team success, because there are always team awards first for the Terps. So you think that it's an individual award? Like, yeah, it technically is, but a lot of it is a team award, similar to MVP in the NFL, similar to the Heisman. The Heisman is a lot of the time, it feels like nowadays, the best quarterback on the best, or the best quarterback on the best team. And so that's not an easy thing to accomplish when you're not going to go undefeated in your conference and you already started 0-2. I think another thing he has to do is continue to put up huge numbers. Like next week against Northwestern, we're going to need another 120, 1 or 2 touchdown game. Like that's just what is going to have to happen week in and week out. And I think he's got to continue to put up really good numbers. Last week wasn't his best game, was his worst game of the season. Couldn't really get things going, got injured, of course. But he's still third in the country in receiving yards. It's a little bit tighter now, but Trey Harris is absolutely dominating. TCU guy is number 2. Tai Felton's number 3 with 642 and 5 touchdowns, but other guys are starting to come in with the touchdowns. Of course, Travis Hunter's up there too with 561, which is just crazy when you think about what he does as a corner. Ryan Williams, a talented Alabama guy that a lot of people are talking about, is he's 16th in yards. So I think that when you want to win an award like this, at the end of the day, you got to put up crazy numbers, especially when you're a guy like Tai Felton coming from Maryland. He's going to have to continue to put up 100-yard games, multiple touchdown games, which isn't going to be easy, because I'm telling you, teams are going to start to really game plan. And I felt like this will happen last week a little bit, and that's the reason why Caden Prather got going a little bit, is because Tai Felton, a lot of it felt like the game plan for Indiana was focused on Felton, and it wasn't going to be easy for him to just get open and for him to just create and him to just get single coverage and him to just run by guys or to route guys up. It felt like that wasn't going to be easy. And I think for the rest of the year, like Oregon's not going to let Tai Felton go for 150 yards, or USC is going to try not to. But I do think that we play defenses that have been acceptable in the past to getting open. And so next week against Northwestern, it starts, you got to bang out another, you got to probably go off against some of these lesser opponents. And we've seen him be able to do that. So I'm talking 150 yards, a touchdown or 2. And I think he's so talented. Like, I think he has a chance to be a second or first round receiver, which is really big time for a Maryland guy. And I think he has a chance to do something special. But for him to win this award, I think Maryland's got to probably upset somebody. And I think he's got to continue to go off and do those types of things. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.